In this video, you're getting a first look at a pre-production pressure cooker by Maor Appelbaum Mastering and Handy Amps, a high-end mastering device built to make big moves with just a few controls. In this demonstration, we're going to run it across different genres of music and let you hear what it does to air, density, depth, and clarity. This is Alex from Alex Pro Mix. Let's go! What's up, guys? This is Alex from Alex Pro Mix. I'm real excited to bring to you guys a brand new mastering device by Maor Appelbaum Mastering and Handy Amps called the Pressure Cooker. In fact, this is a pre-production unit, so you're not gonna find another video like this anywhere else. I'm excited about this unit because the results that it gives you would typically take a stack of plugins, which means that it makes your work more efficient and give you better results than having to figure out how to get those types of results by stacking plugins or analog chains. This video is not a technical video explaining every feature. I will go through some of the parameters of what it does, but more importantly, the purpose of this video is to show you guys results. So without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, cool. So we're here in Pro Tools, and the way that the session is laid out is that I have my source tracks, which are basically final mixes. Right here, these 4 tracks are my 4 final mixes. These are different genres, which you guys will hear in a minute. All these mixes are being routed through A, which is dry, unprocessed, and B, which is going through the pressure cooker, processed. So as I go through my demonstration, I'm going to toggle between A and B. Whenever you say A unmuted, you're hearing the dry or unprocessed track. When you see B unmuted, you're hearing the processed track. I'm also using a limiter, not to boost any level, but to catch any peaks in case we overdrive the signal, but that's about it. For my monitoring, I'm using LCD 5S, which sound amazing for mastering and for binaural mixing. And I'm pairing that with the Grace Designs M900 headphone amplifier. This combo works great for mastering, getting high quality signal monitoring and making decisive decisions about your EQ moves, your mastering moves in the box or out the box. All right, so let's go ahead and play this first track and then we'll dial in some tones and I'll try my best to explain what I'm doing on the pressure cooker. All right, let's bring it in. Let's start with Jolly. Here we go.
Peleke nikupeleke, unavyokata seketekete, unafanya mwili ilegelege.
So for starters, I'll bring up the roast, which is kind of squeezing the track, saturating a little bit, and then I'm going to increase crisper to boost up a little bit of air. Here we go.
DJ Mila. Jolie, be my Jolie, 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 Jolie.
Cool, so what I'm hearing right away with roast is that it's squeezing the track like a saturator would so that the mix doesn't feel so like separate where like the bass is over here, the kick's over here, the guitars are here, the melody's over here. It's kind of gluing all the interrelational aspects of the production together a little bit more. Not like compression, not like limiting, but it's doing something within the microdynamics of the arrangement of the song. And then with crisper, I'm adding a a little bit of air and clarity, especially to the percussive elements and also to the vocal. Next up, I'm going to use sear to clean up some of the mids. Here we go. So when I increase sear, what I hear is that it gives more depth to the track. From what I understand, sear cleans up the mids. It's not going to give you a frequency or a Q or a gain, like value necessarily. So you really have to just use your ears. And talking to Maor, he explained that to me, that it does a lot of things. So like one parameter can affect another. That's why they're not labeled like EQ parameters. But listen, when I increase sear, how like the song becomes a little bit more, almost like a smile face, not necessarily brighter or darker, but it scoops out the low mids, the stuff that kind of gets in the way of the song being louder. So I'm going to bring sear down all the way. I'm going to increase it slightly and listen to what happens to the depth of the song. All right, so the best way that I can describe it is like the bass and kick relationship with sear engaged. It kind of separates them from the mids and the highs, so it kind of gives it its own space. Whereas when I switch to A, the dry version of this final mix, like the low mids of the kick, like prohibit me from turning up the volume because it's kind of too congested, if you will. But when I increase sear, it kind of decongests the mix so that it gives like an openness of it. So I'll give you guys a story. So when I was studying music at college a long time ago, I had to take an instrument. I took voice because, I needed to choose an instrument. So I took voice. And when I was like learning classical singing, they teach you how to sing with open air so that you're not clamping down on your neck. And that's what it feels like. It feels like the mix, it's clamping down on the low mids, but when I increase sear, it like opens up so that more airflow happens. Hopefully that makes sense to some of you guys. All right, let's check it out one more time before and after, and then we'll move on to the next example.
Nipeleke nikupeleke, unavyokata seketekete, unafanya mwili ilegelege.
Okay, cool. So I'd love to hear your comments below to know what you guys are hearing when I switch between A and B, processed and unprocessed on this Afrobeats example. Let's go ahead and switch gears and move on to our next track.
The world was a young and everything seemed so long. I was wide-eyed, I was hopeful back then. Back then 1,000 years have passed and we're still having a blast. What a wonderful time we
So listen to, like, right after that fill, that nice musical break, she says just for, and when she says just for, there's a reverb on her voice. Now when I'm on A, when I'm on dry, that reverb is like far away. But when I'm on B, that reverb gets pushed out to the front of the mix. Watch, listen for that.
Just for all time. Just for all.
So it like spreads the verb, even though it's not a widener, and it pushes it up forward in the mix. So if I can interpret that in musical terms, what it's doing to the song is that it's bringing up the low level dynamics and squeezing it so that they're more audible. And this is really important in broadcast or in streaming or basically having your song play on the radio, is that you want to be able to hear all those little intricate parts of the arrangement of the production and of the mix. And so if I'm processing it through something like a pressure cooker and being intentional about those decisions, I'm helping out the mix to translate on other systems. What does that mean? Is that right now I'm listening to it at a moderate loud, not too loud, moderate loud level on my cans. You know, I'm being very surgical and like listening to what I'm listening to. And I can also throw it up on the mains. But the moment I take this into like a small Bluetooth speaker, some of those little nuances of the mix might get lost because they're too low in the mix. What pressure cooker is doing by using these settings is that it's bringing up the low level information, not in the way that compression does, but the interdynamics of the production of the mix are getting glued together, such as the reverb, the vocal reverb, and it's bringing it up forward in the mix in such a way that it makes it more audible and distinguishable. So I'm going to play that again. I want you guys to pay attention to that. What happens to the verbs that are in the background and how they're like more audible now. Okay, here we go.
Just for all time's sake. Just for all time's sake.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys can hear that. I'll let it play a little bit longer in a minute, but that just for, when she says just for, all of a sudden the reverbs are now a little bit more forward in the mix. It's like the final mix without the pressure cooker, the reverbs are 5 feet away. Final mix with pressure cooker, the reverbs are 3 feet away. All right, let's continue.
Just for all time's sake, one more spin on the merry-go-round. A little kiss, a little love to take. Just for all time's sake, just for all time's sake.
Cool, let me try a different setting. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove roast and everything else, and I'm gonna try using preheat to see if I can get some different results. So let's go ahead and take this track back to the beginning. And let's go here, and I'm gonna reset the unit. Now in the middle part of the unit on the bottom, there's a preheat settings for left and right channels. And this can be set to off, which is the low position, the mid position, which does one thing, and then the higher position, which does another. Let's go ahead and hear what that does, all right? So let's go ahead and take this track from the top. We'll listen to Be Processed, and I'll engage the preheat.
The world was a young and everything seemed so long. I was wide-eyed, I was hopeful back then. Back then. 1,000 years have passed and we're still having a blast. What a wonderful time we've had.
Yeah, so the same results that I was getting by engaging roast, I'm getting similar effect by using preheat, although it's slightly different tonally wise. I feel that in the middle position, it dampens a little bit of the highs, and then the up position, it saturates the track even more. So again, it's just a matter of choosing what taste you want for that particular intent in the mastering process with one unit, with one switch. All right, so let's hear that again. I'll go from the top.
past and we're still having a blast. What a wonderful time we've had. And now it's all come down to this. Just for old time.
Yeah, so it does the same effect when she goes to just for old time. It brings the reverbs more forward in the mix. And I'm not doing anything on this mix other than engaging preheat on high and then just compensating the volume, and that's it. Like sometimes that's all you need to do. You don't need to play with every parameter, but it's good to know that like I can get there with just 2 switches and I'm done. And that's it. That's all I'm going to show in this example. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one.
Feeling like a broken child, I thought that I had lost my mind. Probably not certain of how I feel, but I know I'm hurting deep inside. Frantically searching, but can't put some words to this feeling. It's a cold world out here without you. It's a cold world out here.
Wow. So when the backing vocals come in, now this sounds like radio polished. Whereas without the pressure cooker, you're struggling to hear or to feel what the backing vocals are singing. And that's an interesting phenomenon when you're recording in the production stage. When you're recording vocalists or performers in the studio in the production phase, there's a particular feel that comes across and an excitement. And for some reason, not sure why exactly, like that gets lost in the mix because now you have a lot of things to deal with. You have a lot of decisions to make. If you overprocess a track or a vocal performance, you start to lose that emotion. And like just by adjusting these few parameters, I'm able to restore that initial performance or excitement that was there in the recording. So let me go and rewind back to just that section of the song and listen to what happens when I switch between A and B.
It's a cold world out here without you. 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 It's a cold world out here without you.
Yeah, so the same thing like that happened with our jazz track, which is it's helping out the interdynamics of the arrangement of the mix so that they're more audible and more, you can perceive it clearer. And so that helps a lot with translation because now when I take this mix outside of my studio environment, play it in the car at low level volume, I'm having a conversation. Those things are not getting lost. And that's extremely important to think as a mixer or mastering engineer. Let me play from the top and see what it does to the piano where there's really not a whole lot going on in the mix.
Feeling like a broken child, I thought that I had lost my mind. Probably not certain of how I feel, but I know I'm hurting deep inside. Frantically searching, but can't put some words to this feeling. It's a cold world out here without you. It's a cold world out here without you.
Perfect. I don't need to say anything else. Hopefully you guys can hear that for yourselves. Let me know in your comments what you guys think about this particular example, which is a ballad mix. All right, let's wrap it up with something high energy. I'm gonna bring in the boys from Sacramento. This is Manzanita Music with Moto Days. Let's check it out.
Yeah, she's just an old 250 I knew I had to have. I picked her up in Placerville the day I saw the ad. And when I twist that throttle, oh, it takes me back to moving dirt with shovels, building motorcycle tracks. Yeah, even on the day I die, I'm going for a ride. But I doubt she'd win a race. She'll cross the finish line. Yeah, just oil up her chain, she'll treat you fine. You see this dent here in the tank? Well, I laid her down 2 times, but I blame the mountain who was daring me to climb. Yeah, she's just an old 250, reliable and strong. My friend calls her a tractor, pulling me along. And when I twist that throttle, she turns into a horse, relentlessly advancing like a soldier in the war.
Okay, right there. So when this part kicks in, which is the bass and the drums, listen to the tone of the kick, the beater of the kick, how it changes. So A, this is the original.
Yeah, even on the day I die, I'm going for.
Focus on the beater of the kick, the initial attack of the kick.
Yeah, even on the day I die, I'm going.
And now through pressure cooker.
Yeah, even on the day I die, I'm going for.
The difference there that I'm hearing is that without the pressure cooker, the beater of the kick almost sits a little too high in the mix, where it's like separated from everything else. And then with pressure cooker on, the beater is still there. We're not losing that, but now it's like glued into everything else. It's crazy. Again, let's hear it again.
Yeah, even on the day I die, I'm going. Yeah, even on the day I die, I'm going for a ride. Well, I doubt she'd win a race. She'll cross the finish line. Yeah, just oil up her chain, she'll treat you fine. You see this dent here in the tank? Well, I laid her down 2 times, but I blame the mountain who was daring me to climb. Yeah, she's just an old 250, reliable and strong. My friend calls her a tractor, pulling me along. And when I twist that throttle, she turns into a horse, relentlessly advancing like a soldier in the war.
All right, guys. Well, that's all the time that we have for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed watching this, and I really encourage you guys to rewatch the audio examples, the A and B, using headphones, using your studio monitor, so that you guys can pick out those small, subtle differences between the unprocessed mix and the processed mix using the pressure cooker. If you really enjoy this type of content, I invite you to subscribe to my channel where I publish videos like this and more. Also, I would love to hear in the feedback in the comments below, what's your favorite audio example and where it was an eye-opener for you when you heard the pressure cooker on versus off. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Alex from Alex Pro Mix. I'll see you again real soon. Peace!